Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous edition of Theater Talk at 3 o'clock. I've got my good friend with me. Hello, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's always wonderful to be here on Theater Talk to talk about what's coming up in SAPAC.
Of course, because y'all do have a lot coming up. But before we talk about that, let's just really start with who SAPAC is and what all you have to offer, to our community, because it's a lot.
It is, and it's a lot of our effort is helping people understand SAPAC as a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
We were established in 2012, but the vision started in 2005 when people came together in the community because they believed that we needed a performing arts venue. And in 2012, we were established as a nonprofit, committed to renovating the Murphy Performance Hall and creating a new performing arts center in the old Coca-Cola factory.
Yeah, and I mean, all these renovations, they're absolutely amazing. What do you think when you walk into these buildings and you're like, wow?
Well, the Murphy is just magnificent.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how much that place is a very special part of San Angelo.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to the Stevens Performing Arts Center, just behind the City Hall, that's a really wonderful space as well because it's newer and there's a lot of potential in that building. Yeah. And so our mission is really to maintain these facilities, bring in national touring companies, and also provide venues for local performing arts groups so that way we can enrich the lives of the people here in San Angelo.
Yeah, y'all are completing the mission, let me tell you, because you have a lot of groups doing all kinds of things. What are some of the groups that are in there and that use your facilities?
Well, we have San Angelo Broadway Academy. Yeah. They use the Murphy Performance Hall 4 times a year. Ballet San Angelo uses the Murphy, and they're a resident company within the Stevens Performing Arts Center. And we have B Theater. They're another resident company in the Performing Arts building. And so we have a lot of resident and local companies that work with us. And more recently, I had a pleasure of hosting the Texas Association of School Administrators for their conference at the end of October. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounded like a lot of fun.
It was.
Well, fantastic. So you mentioned some of these touring companies who come here and perform here. Y'all have a fabulous group coming soon.
We do. It's part of our Broadway series. It's actually the first show in our Broadway series. It's the $1 Million Quartet. And they were here back in 2018 when they were on their first national tour. But now they're back for Christmas.
They are, yes. And we have a special video that we're going to play, and then we're going to talk more about it. So here you go. Take a look.
From the creators of the award-winning Broadway hit $1 Million Quartet comes a brand new holiday musical, $1 Million Quartet Christmas. Ring in the season with Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, and Jerry Lee Lewis as they sing your favorite rock and roll Christmas hits. $1 Million Quartet Christmas the Musical.
Okay, so you may have noticed a theme here. It's Christmas.
It is. And so the original $1 Million Quartet musical paid homage to the special impromptu recording session between 4 of America's greatest rock and roll icons, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Elvis Presley. And the new show that they're developing this year for the Christmas season, it's something special and something new.
Yes, very special and very new. And this is actually one of their first stops is San Angelo.
It is. It's one of the first stops on their current national tour as they get started.
Wow, that is fantastic. So for folks who may be thinking, like you said, you mentioned they were here in the past. This is a totally different show.
It is. Once again, it's focused on the holiday season, but it's all your favorites. And if you're a fan of those 4 great icons, I highly, highly recommend it.
I was about to say, I think everybody knows those names, right?
I think so. And if you don't, well, then maybe you should come out anyway and check it out and see why they're so amazing.
Exactly, because it's Christmas music. And I mean, who doesn't want to get in the spirit?
Yeah. Especially this year. I mean, it's so important this year for us to get out and get in the spirit of giving and helping one another out and, enjoying time with friends and family.
Most definitely. So that kind of leads us to tickets because y'all always have some sort of deal going on and all kinds of seats available.
Yeah, so I would say that the best way to find out about tickets and deals is to check us out on sanangelopac.org. It's the website you see there on the screen right now. Call the box office at 325-284-3825, or check us out on Facebook because we always have deals. And I think this Black Friday, we're going to have a deal coming up.
Oh, okay. So make sure to monitor for that.
Yes. And, you know, you always save 10% coming in person to buy tickets from the box office on 82 Gillis Street because you don't have to pay the internet service fee that we have to tack on to pay for to keep the lights on the internet.
Exactly. You got to pay those bills, right? Because y'all are a nonprofit.
Yeah, we do. It's like every month and each year is trying to figure out how we balance the budget and make sure that we can bring great shows in, but also keep the lights on and keep people employed.
Well, and so that's a way that people can help is just show up to the shows, buy the tickets.
Yeah, and it's a great time now. I think we've got a great lineup of shows coming up this month. Actually, in next week, we've got The Christmas Story, a musical this weekend with the San Angelo Broadway Academy. That's opening. And we also have $1 Million Quartet. And in December, we've got the Nutcracker.
Oh, I mean, everybody knows the Nutcracker, right?
Yeah, that's like one of the great productions that we put on each year with San Angelo Broadway. The Ballet San Angelo.
Yeah. So, I mean, y'all's website is phenomenal. You have all the information on there. So, I mean, is that the starting point really for folks?
I would say that's the starting point for folks, or just call the box office.
Yeah.
The staff there can help you pick out season tickets. We have flex packages available. I also recommend getting the Broadway series this month because we've got $1 Million Quartet, Simon Garfunkel Story, and South Pacific all packaged together as the Broadway series.
Wow. And so, okay, speaking of kind of those packages, businesses can actually sponsor shows as well.
Yes. And we were very appreciative of Texas Bank for sponsoring Outrageous last week. And we've got Nobility sponsoring the $1 Million Quartet this time.
Fantastic. So if a business wants to get involved, they can just give y'all a call.
Yeah, or I've got my development associate, Cameron. He's on task, as well as our board members on reaching out to businesses to gain sponsorship for upcoming events. One of our great sponsors really is SCISD and their sponsorship of the education series.
Yes, just a great series. So many kids impacted by that.
We had almost 1,000 students at Outrageous at 10 a.m.
Really?
In the morning. It was chaotically fun.
I was about to say, what energy?
It was a lot of energy. I don't think I've ever been in a place with that much energy and excitement.
That is fantastic. And that's really what SAPAC is all about, going to y'all's mission, going back to your mission, just providing this outlet for people.
Yes, and one of our, I think great accomplishments is being able to reach out to schools and apply grant money to help schools use our spaces and have the kids, like in the orchestra and band programs, experience something on stage in a nice professional auditorium.
Yes, wonderful. And okay, so speaking of professionals, we're about to speak with a phenomenal guest, a very special guest that we got on this show for y'all. So let's bring him in, shall we? And without further ado, folks, I've got a very special guest here with me. This is Chuck Mead. He's a singer, an artist, a producer, a songwriter, everything. He's been on the Grand Ole Opry 137 times. So safe to say he knows what he's doing, folks. Chuck, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. How are things in San Angelo?
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. So let's just start with your background. Tell us. It's easier to say what you don't do in the music and arts industry, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I like to call myself a hillbilly singer. I play country music for a living, and I have done for a long time. I was in a band in the 90s called BR 549 that we had a pretty good amount of success and did a whole lot of things. And I think because of that notoriety, I got a call from Colin Escott one day in 2005, and Colin Escott, I knew him because he's this very prominent music writer. He'd written a lot of liner notes for a lot of really great records that I had over the years on the Bear Family, and he also wrote the definitive Hank Williams biography and a Sun Records history. So I knew who he was, and I'd met him a few times, and he called me up and he said, "Have you ever thought about working in the musical theater?" And really, I was just on my way to a festival in Europe to play some country music for people. And it's like, it didn't occur to me that musical theater was in my future. And then he told me that he'd written this piece about the $1 Million Quartet, which of course is the story of the one and only time that Elvis and Carl and Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee Lewis were together at the old Sun Studio in Memphis at the same time. It only happened once ever. And I'm like, well, I know that. And so I didn't know anything about being a musical supervisor or a music director for a Broadway show at all. So I just acted like a record producer, and because I did know that. I did know how to make records. And so that's how I got started in being in the musical theater, and I just kind of stumbled into it and learned a lot over the years. And now we've reassembled basically the same team to bring you the $1 Million Quartet Christmas show. And I think people are really going to like this show at Christmas.
I would say so too, and it sounds like everything just kind of worked out as far as you getting involved. And so for this show, you mentioned these icons coming together and kind of the start of $1 Million Quartet. What do you hope that people take away from this show?
Well, we like to think, of course, we want people to have a good time, because it's a lot more of a rock and roll show than your normal musical, because everything that you hear, all the music that you hear is being made on stage. There's no tapes, there's no tracks, there's no other people in the wings playing. It's just like what you see is what you get, and you don't necessarily get that with every show. And there's an honesty to our show that people can feel. They go away music heavy, and that's what we want people to do, is to dance and have a good time. Because Colin wrote it, there's a whole lot of truth to it as well. We do a lot of the songs in both of the shows, in the original $1 Million Quartet and this new piece, the $1 Million Quartet Christmas. We do songs that they did at that session, and we talk about stuff that was happening at that session. And so it's really a play with music, and it's interesting. People don't expect that. People go to this expecting a regular jukebox musical. It is kind of that, but there's a story that you learn about these guys before they became the icons that they were. This is 1956, and Elvis is a big star at this time, but he's only 21 years old, and these other guys are 22, 23, and Jerry Lee's only 20 years old when this happened. And so you get to be a fly on the wall, so to speak, at the inception of these guys' career. And people really like it. They respond to it. And I think they're going to really dig the Christmas show too, because it has the same spirit as the other show, which is the spirit of Sam Phillips, the guy who made all those guys.
That is fantastic. So I want to go back to something that you said. You mentioned, the authenticity of it, and people really can feel that it's translated, from just on the stage, off the stage, throughout the performance hall. How did y'all find that? Because like you mentioned, people know these gentlemen, these singers, they're well known. So going back to, their early 20s, how did y'all really dig in and find that authenticity?
Well, the authenticity is in the music, and no matter what happened in their personal lives, and there's a lot of drama surrounding most of those guys' personal lives, and that's part of it, because that's what makes it who they are. The real legacy they leave is the music, and we feel like that if the music and the story is presented in an authentic way, where people can understand that this is really happening, and these were real people. Elvis was a real person. He's not just something that's on the shelf, a caricature. These were real people, and they had real feelings, and there were real things happening to them at the same time. They were changing worldwide popular culture, and so I think that people get a sense of that, because all these guys came from nothing. They came from dirt poor cotton pickers, in the South, and they rose up because they had a talent, and they were lucky enough to come across Sam Phillips, who had a talent for spotting talent and nurturing it. And you know, it was just a happy little accident that is rock and roll.
Exactly. So for you being part of, you know, this creative process and recreating, you know, this show and everything, did you feel a certain pressure about it at all?
Well, when I first started, I was too stupid to feel the pressure. So we just carried on and did the thing because I felt like, you know, I knew Carl. Carl was very supportive of our career in BR549, Carl Perkins, and Cash would send messages sometime. I mean, but this was before the play, and you know, all the families are on board with this show too, and that means a lot. Of the families of the four icons and Sam too, they're all on board with how we portray this because, again, we take care of the music and we take care of the real legacy and how they impacted worldwide culture, you know, just by not knowing what they were doing. And so I carry on that tradition of not knowing what I'm doing. And therefore, I didn't really feel a lot of pressure at first. It was only after, you know, that I started meeting these guys, and they're like, you know, you guys did a really good job on that, and it means a lot for people of that realm and people who are involved in the actual event to validate what you have done. It means a lot.
Yeah, it sounded like it all worked out. So for folks
so far, knock on wood.
So for folks who may be coming to the show or just, you know, listening to this in general, if there was one thing that you could tell them that, you know, maybe they may not realize about this whole process or about this show, what would you tell
them? Concerning what, you know, just to tell them what they might not know about this show?
Yeah, just something that they may not realize, you know, if you're not in that industry.
Well, yeah, a lot of person are like, well, who's Carl Perkins? And Carl Perkins is the father of rockabilly. He was the guy. There wouldn't be a Beatles if it wasn't for Carl Perkins. The Beatles recorded more, you know, they wrote their songs, obviously, but when they did cover versions of old rock and roll songs. But the artist that they covered more than any other artist is Carl Perkins. And I think that that's a tribute to how important that guy was, but not many people know who Carl is outside of country music fans and old rock and roll fans. They may not be that familiar with him, or maybe even Jerry Lee Lewis for that matter, except for there's been movies made about Jerry Lee Lewis. So in that sense, I feel like, again, the responsibility is to tell the story right and get Carl's point of view across as well as everybody else's. And so I think that people can get a lot out of this show. And, you know, what was it that the old Fat Albert show, you know, we're going to have a good time, but we might learn something along the way.
Yeah, not a bad deal all around. Well,
No.
Chuck, thank you so much for being for taking the time out and being on this show. Are there any final thoughts or messages that you want to share?
I think that if you go to this show and you're not on your feet at the end of it, you might have died while you were in the theater.
Plain and simple, just like that.
It's that good. You'll have that much fun.
I love it. I love to hear that. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me.
Wow. What a great guy.
Truly. And, you know, I didn't know that the Beatles had covered Carl Perkins more than any other artist at that time.
Yeah, he was right. You're really going to learn something from this show.
Truly, you know, which is kind of a cool segue into the fact that we have the Beatles show coming up
Yeah.
in April with Yesterday and Today. And that's going to be a really special show because they will ask the audience members to submit their favorite songs
Really?
and play it as part of their set.
That is amazing. Yeah, so go ahead and mark your calendars, folks, because, okay, so not only do y'all have that show, you have a lot more coming up.
We do. And
Yeah.
the most important thing to announce, though,
Yeah.
you'll hear it first, just like you heard about Dwight Yoakam here first, folks. You know, we have our annual Thistle Fair fundraiser coming up, and it'll be on the 11th of February.
Wow.
So it'll be tied into Valentine's Day.
Oh.
So, take out your significant other and come join us in our SAPAC spaces on the Thistle Fair evening.
Oh yeah, always a good idea. So okay, don't say we didn't warn you. We've got your Valentine's date ready to go.
We do,
Already
and it's going to be a
planned out.
pretty special evening.
Yeah.
We've got a lot planned for that night.
That is awesome. Yeah, a great fundraiser for y'all for sure.
Yes, and speaking of fundraisers and events, we have our first volunteer open house tonight at 7 at the San Angelo Performing Arts Center in the Stevens Performing Arts Center. I know it's always kind of confusing about which Performing Arts Center, but so come out and join us if you want to volunteer. We're going to talk about the exciting opportunities we'll have this year and how we're going to evolve that program.
That's wonderful. So anybody who is wanting to volunteer, this is the event to go to.
Yes, and there'll be food.
Of course.
Of course.
That is awesome. Yeah. And so y'all have, like you said, let's just go over a little bit because we've got the $1 Million Quartet coming up. And then, of course, the Christmas classics.
Yes. And then at the start of the year, we have Freedom Riders, which will be part of our education series.
Yeah.
They're a group out of Texas A&M University and College Station, and they'll put on a show about the Freedom Riders. It'll be a musical. And we also have Rob Schneider coming at the start of the year, as well as Jason Petty and a whole host of shows. I think I'll take too much time just recounting them right now, but those are the key ones coming up.
Yeah.
We also have Simon Garfunkel will be in beginning of March. So, and then we had Alma Mexicana Mariachi. They were scheduled in October and they've rescheduled to 25 March. So we're excited about that.
That is exciting. And folks, like we said, go to that website on your screen because all the information's there. It's a great starting point. You can buy tickets online, but of course you can go to the box office and purchase tickets in person.
Yes. And if you're a member of our great organization, you always hear about ticket sales first.
Oh, a little insider perk there.
Yeah, members get first chance at buying tickets and getting the choice of seats in the house.
Oh.
And we have a special deal going on starting this month. If you get a membership with SAPAC, we'll throw in some merchandise. A nice t-shirt or a hat.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
It is. It's a great deal. It's not just a good deal. It's a great deal.
It's a great deal, folks. So again, go to their website, give them a call, find out all the information on everything that we just talked about and stuff coming up. So, wow, that was a lot. Y'all have a lot going on, truly.
We do, but we can't do it all without our sponsorship and our members and those people who support us at every show.
Yeah.
And volunteers are key to what we do every show, and even like the freelance personnel that we bring on as stagehands for upcoming events as well. Everyone makes the dream come true.
Yes. Shout out to the community, the sponsors, the volunteers, board members, everybody.
Yes, because we have on a routine basis some of the most amazing backstage crews, volunteers, and supporters, people who invest in us as an organization to help us continue our mission of enriching the community.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again so much for coming on and telling us about everything going on, all the wonderful things you have going on. Do you want to share any final thoughts or messages?
One of these days, I am hoping to bring together that next group of young aspiring musicians, artists, whatever. I would hope that, some local hometown folks could get their start in the SAPAC spaces and become the next Elvis Presley and Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash out there. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And then they could come back on the show.
And they could come back on the show and have their own tour, right?
There you go.
I think that's the goal for everybody.
That's the goal. That's a great goal. So let's make it happen, folks.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for right now. But hey, we'll see you next time. Have a great day, everyone.
Peace.